So it's a big game tonight here at the Saddle Dome, at the Pengrowth Saddle Dome, at Skyreach
Canadian
Center.
Airlines.
The Leafs are in town. I don't know if you knew that. So it's a pretty big day for everybody to have the Trelivings in town. How have the Trelivings been the last little bit here? Looks a little streaky, Jay, a little up and down.
Yeah, they have been. I'd say post-Christmas, a couple of skids they've gone on, maybe a couple 3 gamers, but just like in the playoffs with this group, it doesn't make sense. It's a very Leafy thing, as we say in the biz, but it doesn't make sense. They have a high-octane, offensively gifted core that they've provided all the money to, and when they come up short, it's in goal scoring. And I think they're 100% when they score 3 goals in a game. They're unbeaten, and that group should not be coming up short the way they do. But oddly enough, that has been their Achilles heel, is not being able to score the goals. And, during a 3-game slide, they scored a total of 3 goals, which is just unacceptable for that group. They pulled themselves out against the pesky Oilers, and now they're looking to do the same against your Flamers.
What's the goaltending? Because Stolarz, we talked about it, a month into the season, about what the Leafs need. Well, the Leafs, they don't need scoring. They got plenty of that. Well, what if they need some help in net? And then Stolarz was really good. Yeah. He's been out now, like Matt Murray. They brought him, like, what? Dead and forgot to lie down. Matt Murray, how is he? I didn't even know he was still in the league. He's back. And Joseph Woll, he gets hurt. He gets back. What's the goaltending been without Stolarz? I didn't think any team would be missing Anthony Stolarz, but maybe the Leafs are.
Yeah, I mean, to start the year, well, they've been killed by injuries, the Leafs, this year. They didn't even get out of the gates from camp unscathed, and they lost Woll right off the bat. But those 2 goalies have been hamming and egging it really well, and both of them, for the whole body of their work, for when they're healthy, has been fantastic. And Stoley's just about to come back. I wouldn't be surprised if he snuck one in here before the Four Nations face-off break. But he's been phenomenal, and so has Woll in his absence. Like I said, they've been hamming and egging it pretty good. Woll stood on his absolute head up in Edmonton and kind of solidified that win. But if we can get both those goaltenders healthy, the way they're both playing when they were healthy, I mean, the biggest problem in between the pipes is figuring out who to play and when. And do you just switch hit them, or do you ride the hot hand, or who do you even call the hot hand when both of them are coming off great performances? So, I mean, everyone in Leafs Nation is hoping that picks up where it left off when Stoley's hurt. But like I said, Woll, for a guy without a ton of experience, hasn't been a number 1 guy and has battled injuries for his tenure in the league. He's done a hell of a job during Stolarz' absence here.
How has it been so quiet on the Marner front? I mean, he's a UFA. He's got the no trade. He's basically got all the leverage in this theoretical, either game of chicken or negotiation, whatever you want to call it, between him and the Leafs. His last contract was incredibly heavily criticized. He was the poster boy for playoff failures. It's dead silent. What's going on, and what do you think happens?
Well, just like everyone, when you're talking about the Leafs, the only thing that really matters is the playoffs. And Mitch is doing Mitch things in his contract year. He's playing phenomenal. He's got points coming out the yin-yang, and he's oftentimes the Leafs' best player. And people are used to that. A lot of people are just, they have his poster on their kid's wall, and they love him, and they want him to re-sign forever. Other people are hesitant, but they get a lot of flack when they say we need to move on from this guy, and he's putting up the points that he is. So at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters here is the playoffs. And I think that the Leafs would be smart to wait until the playoffs are over. I realize you can't get anything for him if you choose to move on from it, but with the salary cap going where it is, with what he would make, and with John Tavares coming off the cap as far as an $11 million hit, whether they resign him or not, there's going to be room to play with. So I really believe that the play is see what they do in the playoffs. If Mitch stems up and becomes the hero in the playoffs, and they go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and he proves he can get it done in the postseason, I believe they'll extend him. And if not, they might walk away from him. I don't see a world where a trade happens in this day and age with the salary cap and whatnot, and with him holding all the cards with his no move clause. I think that's the most likely scenario, but I don't think the Leafs would be smart to do anything unless they see what he can do this year in the playoffs.
It's interesting how quick things can change, because now you've got the Tavares deal. What is it done this year? Is this it?
It's up. He's at 11 mil. And
yeah, because for the longest time it was, the Leafs have so much money, they can't do, they got all this money. Well, then if Tavares goes, or even if he resigns at a lower number. The cap's going up and all. They're not in peril anymore. You could conceivably keep Mitch Marner. I mean, I know you've been critical of Marner, and who hasn't been based on his playoff performance in the past, but I mean, the guy's leading them in points. He does nothing but get points. He gets them to the playoffs along with some others, but he's a hell of a good player. And for as soft as he's criticized as being, he puts up with a lot of shit and abuse. He seems to love it there. All you want is guys that want to play for your team. Here's a guy that clearly loves the Leafs. I am interested to see how this does play out.
Yeah, and it'll be exactly that. It'll be interesting. I don't know where Shanahan and Tree Living's head is at as far as Mitch Marner. I don't know how much stock they put in him and how much they're willing to allocate to him. But, you know, there's two different things. They can, if they move on from him, I mean, the cap goes up, you get him off the books, and you know, I think they will sign John Tavares based on.
They'll come back on a friendly deal, won't they? Like low money.
I would think so.
$77 million.
Yeah, he's coming at, and everyone thought when he signed that, the last 2 years of that deal, he's going to be, you know, he's not going to be worth it at all, but we're putting in the eggs in the basket right now to get him to Toronto. But he's, I mean, maybe not $11 million, but he's having a hell of a good year. He's putting up tons of, you know, point a game type of guy, and is doing everything you could ask for a player at that situation in his contract. So you get him down to say $5 million. There you open up another 6, the cap goes up. And if you walk away from Mitch, and everyone knows that the UFA crop coming in is pretty heavy. So there's reason to believe that that could be something in a direction that they could go in and try to revamp their team, especially if they do the exact same thing in the playoffs and come up short and can't score the goals. I mean, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's kind of what they've been doing for the last 8-9 years with this core 4, if you want to still call it that. So I think it's a huge year for Mitch Marner in particular, and for the Leafs specifically in the playoffs this year, as it always is. But I think the direction of this team will be dictated by this year's playoffs.
How's Berube been?
I think good. Not like they play a different style. They're more accountable. There's less loopy, shooty circus stuff going on, and that starts with the big boys. You remember years past, they seem to try to want to win games 7-6, and that's just not indicative of a good hockey team that's going to go far in the playoffs. You know, north-south hockey is what Chief calls it. You know, high percentage plays. It's not that waist high cross rink sauce pass anymore. They're getting it deep. They're chasing it down. And, you know, their power play has struggled, but they're starting to figure out, you know, you funnel more pucks to the net, you're going to get more opportunities. So it seems like he's got them with a bit of a different identity, but I thought he'd be a little bit more bark towards these guys and hold them accountable and be more vocal and maybe intense as far as the accountability would be concerned. But that being said, they've been playing pretty solid and they've been riddled with injuries. So it's hard to think that yelling and screaming would make a big difference in that locker room. But so far, so good with Chief. And again, with anything else with the Toronto Maple Leafs, the deciding factor is going to be what happens in the playoffs.
I see Nylander's back at 30. It's his 5th 30-goal season. You've got Matthews, so he's the star and all that. He's now the captain and the disgruntled. You got Marner, he takes a beating. And then just right down the middle, steady is Nylander. Boy, it's a lot of money for Nylander, and it seems like he's kind of worth it.
Yeah.
Guy seems like, I don't know if it's thick skin or his give a shit meter doesn't really move a whole lot, but he produces. He's kind of the silent assassin there for the Leafs.
He is. He's kind of like the golden boy. He can do no wrong, and he doesn't really care. He does weird stuff. He's very aloof. He doesn't get worked up emotionally. I mean, during their 3-game skid, he's in the media scrum and he's like, so what? We lost 3 in a row. What's the big deal? And I mean, if Austin said that, if Mitch said that, if anybody said that, the city would probably burn down. But it's Nylander saying it, and Willie goes out and I think he had 2-1 the next night or something. He does what he wants out there, and he gets away with it because he produces. I mean, watch tonight. I'd put money that he gets a breakaway. It seems like he's averaging like 2 breakaways a game. He's got, and it's not by cheating or blowing the zone. He's just got a nose for it and a knack for it. But when he turns it on, he is very effective. There's a reason he doesn't take a lot of heat. It's because he shows up when it matters, and people just like his personality. I think he's tailor-made for the market of Toronto.
Fans here are going to appreciate. Sorry, Ryan. I was just going to just ask about Tanev. Fans of Calgary appreciated him. You see him on a nightly basis, and you see the stuff that he does, and the sacrifices, and the pounding that he takes. But then you go outside the city limits to other fan bases, and you say, "Oh, this guy's pretty good." What are you talking about? Because I laughed when I think it was Drager said, "No, Tanev be all right for the Four Nations," and the whole hockey world was like, "What are you talking about? Are you hammered?" How's he been in Toronto for season 1?
Yeah, he's been fantastic. I mean, he is one of those guys where you don't, he's not on the highlight package. He doesn't show up on the score sheet very heavily. And if you're not watching or paying attention to him, you probably don't really notice. Everyone knows, okay, he's blocked a shot with his face. He blocks shots, okay. But to me, when you watch him, he has no panic and he has a poise with the puck to not that he's doing flashy things with it, but he makes the plays out of his zone all the time. You watch him getting backed into a corner. I played defense before at the professional level for a couple of years and probably couldn't hack it, which is why they switched me to forward. But I know how quickly your time and space can get turned around and how detrimental your mistakes are. And you just watch the guy. You think he's in a corner. You think he has no options. You think he's outmanned, and he just makes these plays, and they're simple and they look easy, but they're not. And I think it's something that's easy to go unnoticed. As you mentioned, he's a guy that doesn't get the tip of the cap very often, but it's those little things that just keep the line changes going, keep the momentum rolling, get the puck out of your net. You don't get hemmed in. He keeps the puck moving north. He does it very well, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. He's been phenomenal for the Leafs.
It's like that Rhett Warner, Sometimes off the glass and out, simple. That's what you need, right?
Retired at 32? No, I don't think so. Nope.
You didn't get a 6-year deal when you were 32, Rhett? There's no Robida Island back then?
There was an island. I got to go live on it by myself. It was
Warner Island. So we're 31 days from the deadline. What's on the shopping list? I know early on in the year, the goalies had to win people over. The defense has always been an area they've looked to improve. You've talked about the offensive skill, but suddenly depth forward. Like, what would you prioritize the ad for Treliving and company?
Yeah, well, two things. I think depth at center, a third line center is fairly needed. And I think a defense partner, specifically one to potentially play with Morgan Rielly. And it's odd. I mean, if Morgan Rielly was playing up to his potential, how many $7.5 million defensemen are you scrambling to try to find him a partner? That guy's supposed to be the one that you help the other guy out with and make your partner better, but everyone seems to be scrambling to try to find someone for Morgan Rielly to play with. And unfortunately, for a guy that's supposed to be, an offensive threat, a defensive juggernaut, he's doing neither right now. And to be honest, he's been a liability to the team. So I hope that he finds his game somehow. I mean, we're starting to creep into February here, and you're looking at the deadline. Time's kind of running out, and I think they need somebody to make him better and just to fill out the blue line, as there's guys like Morgan Rielly who aren't necessarily pulling their weight. On the forward side of thing, I think a 3C is necessary. Max Domi's in that spot right now, and I think he's better suited off to play on the wing. He's had a tough season as well. If he gets up to his potential, I think it'll help the bottom six out a lot. But I think a lot of people realize he's better suited on the wing with a little less responsibility. I think he's feeling it right now. I think his confidence is low, and he's got this huge monkey on his back for not scoring at all compared to what he's used to. And I think people know what Max's potential is with playing physical, being a bulldog, being in everyone's face, but also being able to make plays and finish them as well. So I think those are spots that they're going to be a necessity to fix if you want to go on a deep run this year. And at the same time, if you can get those two guys to elevate their games and you make the changes, I think it would help this lineup out a lot. Problem is they don't have a whole lot to offer in return. Everyone's yelling, "Oh, get this guy, get that guy." And the average fan doesn't really understand how difficult it is to make a trade in this league. You don't have a whole lot of assets. You don't have a first-round draft pick this year. The two main prospects that are coming down the barrel, I think they're going to be hesitant to part with. So it's going to be difficult for the Leafs to make much of a splash this year at the deadline.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Domi. 3 goals. He strikes me as a guy who will do things for you if he's not scoring. But I feel like that he wasn't brought back. He wasn't brought in there to not score. I think there was some expectation that he's going to have maybe 10, 15 goals. 3 is not where you want to see him.
No, you look at like a Bobby McMahon. He's overshadowed Domi for sure, coming out of nowhere. Undrafted Alberta kid, and his shot is really it's underrated. He's got a shot that, like, even Austin Matthews has said, like, this guy's got a rocket that can come off like nothing, and it's accurate. And he's showcased that a few times. And Domi's just, I really thought that he was gonna flourish under Craig Berube. I thought that he's a guy that can get goals and that can make plays. He's got a pass first mentality, but he's also got that dog in him where he'll chase down a puck and he'll bury a guy and he'll get in guys' faces and bring that intensity to the game. And really haven't seen any of it this season. He had a bit of success there when he was playing with McMahon himself and Nick Robertson, who's also a guy that's trying to figure out where he fits in this league, if anywhere. And if it's not going for that line in particular, which it was for a little while, there hasn't been a whole lot more to show for it. So I'm sure he's wanting as much as anyone to get things going this season.
How's the kids' hockey? You mentioned, are we in cities? Do you have cities when you're like, what's the story there? Yeah,
yes, it's not just a rural outdoor rank league, even though you guys don't venture your minds outside of the big city very often. Right. There's lots happening up here. 2 boys. They're U9 and U13.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that crossover season where you can see the end of the tunnel with the hockey. And oh my God, we only have how many games left? But already I was in Red Deer yesterday for lacrosse tryouts, and they're trying garb on for the youngest one, spring hockey, and it just never ends. Boom. It just never, ever ends. I don't think the parents that make the schedules know what an off day is.
I saw Jay at some spring thing last year, and I'm like, there's some psycho parents there. This is crazy. When I was playing, we never did this shit. I played in the NHL. These parents are loony.
What happened to learning? What happened to water skiing or golfing in the summertime? That's gonzo now. Hey,
no, that's not focused, Jay. You got to get focused and you got to get committed. Come on, man.
You gotta make time to see your sports psychologist and your nutritionist in the off season when you're 11.
When are you foam rolling? Like
when you're 11.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got to go meet with my nutritionist. I'd love to go to the park, but
after I see my nutritionist. I got the schedule here, Mom. Come on.
Well, the thing is, you're seeing these kids that are just freaks, man. I mean, there's so many generational players who, and the more you go back and watch like 80s and 90s hockey, you're like, Jesus, man, these guys are barely specialized in their sport, you know? And nowadays they're like from another planet, but that's the byproduct of having, I mean, if you want to make it today, I don't think you can do it by just being, Mr. Try Hard and go out there and give it your all and find a niche. You got to be a freak. And unfortunately, it takes your parents' time and money and effort and being a one sport maniac in order to make it nowadays. I believe that. I see it every day. And obviously the end product is pretty cool by watching all these guys in the NHL, but God, do these kids give a lot to their sport at a young age.
Is it a dream or a nightmare? Sens Leafs, because it could line up that way. Right now, today, if it ended, I think Florida's tops. It would be the 2-3. It'd be Toronto, Ottawa. There's a chance it could be 1 versus a wild card. We haven't seen one of these in a while. I know we had a one-off of a Battle of Alberta, like since the 90s. It was 2022, nothing since. But like, what would that mean to you? What do you remember about the old ones? Are you in favor?
Yeah, it's tough to say. It's a cool story. It's a storyline. It's a media heyday in Battle of Ontario. And it's starting to become a pretty strong reality as they start to make a push. The Red Wings are moving and pushing other teams down like the Tampa and the Bostons. But it's very possible. I just, knowing the Leafs history and what they've done, I mean, they're up 3-1 to Montreal. That's a dream. And they blow that. Like, there's room for more heartbreak. The more storylines like that you start pumping down the barrel, unfortunately.
I like it.
Well, you're great. This is the bottom part. This is the
sandwich. Yeah.
The sandwich. We love you. We miss you. You're awesome.
Hey, I'll be at the Dome tonight if you guys want to pop in for a Dome beer.
Are you what Leafs? Did you just show a card? Leafs alumni? Get into wherever?
No, my brother. I like to pretend like I'm that guy, but my brother I have to ride his coattails to the Flames games these days.
Nice.
We be at though.
You're a sweet boy. We love you. We appreciate you. Glad to hear that you're doing well. You look great. Hair's on point. Man,
Glad
Skin
to
looks great,
see.
Jay. Yeah.
Glad to see Rhett's just giving her on all cylinders these days.
Is that what you got to do? Is get focused and prepared for all, like when you do this stuff?
I pretend like I do, but it's pretty easy. You watch the highlights with a coffee and then just go turn on the computer. That's my go-to.
AI.
Find co-hosts that do the work. Right, like Alberga comes in with all the notes and the math and all the prep and stuff.
No,
and
He is a hockey nerd, so
Yeah.
why not use your resources?
Partner with a nerd. There's the plan.
play to the strikes.
Like high school.
listen, earmuffs, Boomer and Pinder.
Oh, yeah,
Earmuffs.
okay, yeah.
These phony pricks, they have AI nowadays. You type in one command and it just spits it all out for you. Like they're really putting in the time.
Everyone thought that was going to be the end of these media guys, but it turns out it's their crutch. Hey, I knew it. Not an original thought in those two brains, is there?
Just reading script here, Jay.
Just let us know when you guys are done talking.
All right, earmuffs off.
Okay, good. Jay Rosehill, everybody. Be good,
Enjoy
buddy.
the game, boys. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.